Hey man, what's up?
Hey, how you doing, dude?
Great man, how are you?
I am doing pretty good. I also am trying to get on European server right now, and I don't know if I can. Uh, th-
There's
yeah,
there's a different version, I guess.
yeah. I think they just like hotfixed something today.
That's a nice hat, by the way. I
They,
like it.
hell yeah! Thank you, man. I'll probably take it off later today, but this is my Overwatch hat that I. Honestly, you want to know a fun fact about this hat? It looks really weird on my head if I don't have a headset on because it's like probably one size too big. So it looks all poofy like when I don't have something on that pushes it to my head. But I like it. It's not bad. We might have to do this on NA. Can you get on NA or shit?
I can try.
Okay, because I can't. I can. I think I might have to like reinstall the game to get on Europe or something.
Okay, let's try. I'm not sure how to do it exactly, but
Wait, select the EU launcher. You're a genius. Oh my god, you're in. You're a genius. Okay, don't worry about it. I'll get on Europe. I don't know why I didn't think of this. I'm special.
should I try?
No. You're good. My chat just recommended me something that's very obvious. I should have known to do this, but it's okay. I'm getting on now.
Okay. Because you mentioned Patreon, if there's a better way
Oh no. It's
to
still
pay you for the coaching lesson, if you are going to save some taxes or something like that, we can change it. For example, PayPal or whatever you like. I don't know.
No, I don't think Patreon has a bad model compared to standard PayPal. I think it's. I actually don't even know what the Patreon model is. I kind of just made that Patreon and kind of just was like, all right, cool. Like I just made it, walked away. I was like, it's cool. See what happens. Don't worry about it though. If you want to do Patreon, I'm totally down to do Patreon still. It doesn't bother me one bit.
Okay, great.
All right.
Good. So, what should I do?
So I made it to European server now, so we're good. So I will invite you to a party. Do we ever add before? I can't see you online.
Not sure. I believe I added you.
Are you Slevin Lane?
Nope.
Okay. You're just
One moment.
okay.
Because my StarCraft crashed for some reason. Should be ready in a minute.
Sure. Yeah, no worries, dude. I'm just making sure I'm on the right account. I think I'm on the right account. Um, but how's it been going since last time we talked?
Current season is great for everything except Terran. I believe ZvT is like super crazy right now.
Yeah. No, it's
At least for the lower leagues, I guess.
no. ZvT is definitely going to be a much harder matchup now, mainly because there we go, perfect. Widowmines got stronger. Hellions got stronger. Banelings got weaker. Um,
Queens got
and
weaker.
Queen, yeah, that's a big one too. Queens got weaker. Yeah, so like a lot of openers for Terran now have just better versions of what they were before. Like it's gonna be harder to spread your creep now, and creep is so ridiculously important in TVZ. And for people who are like, Hellions got buffed, question mark, it's because Creep Timmer's armor tag got changed to light instead of armored, which means that Hellions now just obliterate Creep Timmers. So standard Hellion openers actually wreck Creep like crazy, which is just a massive buff to that opener. But yeah, like there's definitely some things we could talk about in ZvT. I actually have a couple ideas for that matchup for like, if your opponent does this, you do this. If he does that, you do this. I think the way I've changed my ZvT to kind of like react as well as I could to the new meta of what ZvT is I have to increase my scout timings by one more now. Just one more scout is all it is. So just to throw it out there like in a really simple way, I used to do initial overlord scout to see what their opener was, what they like when your first overlord gets to their base. And then I would do a second overlord scout around 4 minutes, and then I would be like, okay, yeah, we're probably gonna know what's going on, we'll be fine from there. But I now do a third Overlord Scout at 6 minutes. And the reason why is because there's a ton of Terrans. I don't know if you've run into this yourself, but I've played a ton of Terrans now that like to do variations of Battlecruiser and Hellion, and then they switch into Bio or they go full mech from there. So you don't know. But because of that, because they now even fully commit even harder to like Hellbat timings or BC Hellion timings, and then choose what they're going to go for, that pushes the timer out like a full minute or 2 minutes later to like then when they pick their build, which is why a 6 minute scout is now so good in my opinion.
Sure, I will know that.
Yeah. So yeah, just add in a 6 minute scout, and then from there, yeah. Well, I mean, we can jump into some of your games and look at them too. There'll definitely be a lot of stuff we can talk about, but
I have some general questions first.
Sure, yeah,
which are not related to any replay. What do you think about pull first against ZvT?
I don't like it. Not a fan.
You don't like it?
No, I play against it. Like when I play Terran, I play against pull first so fucking much. Like 90% of Zergs, I swear, are doing that right now. And the more people that do it, the better Terrans are going to get at defending it. That's the first, I think the first concept of it is the more Terrans get to experience it, the better they're going to become against it. So if everyone's doing it, you're going to start running into a brick wall at some point against Terrans. The second reason I don't like it is because all it takes to counter it is you SCV scout. And then if you see, oh, really late hatchery, I'm just going to stay defensive now with the Reaper. It just gets shut down. Like it nets you a loss. So like, because every time I play against Zerg and I do that, I SCV scout and I go, oh look, Lings again. I just have my Reaper kill all the Lings because you can't have. It's impossible to have speed that fast.
Yeah. Because I noticed a build which sends the first 2 links and then sends 3 roaches or something like that.
Yeah.
Just to harass, yeah. And because I'm like very miserable with Terran, I'm not sure whether I should try it.
I think you
just for variety. I don't know.
I think if you wanted to, you could try it out and see how it goes for you. But I will say, I think that if you do that build, you're gonna eventually hit this point again where you're gonna be like, okay, well now I'm stuck. Like it's gonna happen, and that might be 200 MMR above where you're at right now. It might be 400 MMR above where you're at right now, but it's gonna happen. Probably within 500 MMR of where your peak currently is. It might net you like a little bit of an advantage, but then as soon as you get there, you're just going to be stuck because all that build takes to counter is a scout, and then and like a decent reaction from Terran, which is if they see gas being mined beyond 100, they just make a bunker, and then if they see just like, you know, a little bit of a late gas and it's like eventually going to be speed, but they see more of like a 12 pool expand opener, they don't even need a bunker there. They just make a Reaper and stay defensive with it.
Sure. Okay, I may try it, but not sure. I prefer to play the standard macro opener, but
yeah,
I'm losing like hell with against Terran, so I don't know what to do exactly.
I think you'll have more success focusing more on macro again. And I think if you wanted to do, this is my honest opinion, I think if you want to do aggressive openers, there are other ways you can also be aggressive other than that specific build we just talked about, the really early pool one. They can be things where your build will look like macro, and you could switch it into aggression if you wanted to at a certain point, or you could just maintain macro. So it'd be harder for Terran to scout that and read that if you're going to play a macro style as well. The easiest thing for Terran about that really early pool build is that they can read it really easy because it's such a late expansion.
Yeah.
So it's like the second the SCV gets there, it's like the alarms start sounding. Oh, he's all-inning me. He's doing some really cheesy shit. All I got to do is play defensive now, and we'll be ahead.
Yeah. What about overall speed openings?
I think they're good.
I sent my second overlord to scout for some proxies around the base, and then I send it next to the opponent's base, so I can scout at 3 minutes and a half, something like that. But I don't think I need overlord speed upgrade, but not sure.
I think overlord speed upgrade is not a bad idea. I think it's a better idea on maps that are larger. Like, for instance, Golden Wall. Like, it's an awkward map, and it has very awkward scout paths. And maps that have very bad overlord hiding spots. Like, I can't remember one of the names of them. One of the new maps. What's it called? One of the new maps basically just has an area where, like, you can't actually place overlords very well around the guy's natural. I think it's Death Aura. I think it is Death Aura. Like, you can place it in, like, the open airspace, which is not gonna fully be seeing things, but you can't really place an overlord near the front of his natural, so you can't see composition until you kind of have overlord in harm's way. Stuff like that, overlord speed would be better. But in my opinion, I don't think you need it. But if you prefer it, you can totally set up a build that gives you that. Because again, what I do is I will have like again just a quick wrap up of my scouting is my first overlord scouts the natural and sees the initial opener. Second overlord is literally the second overlord I send to the back of his base, and then I scout through his main at 4 minutes. The third overlord is an overseer that I morph in and scout at 6 minutes, so that I can see what his actual transition is going to be. Because again, the new meta for Terran a lot of the time is delayed choices of composition because they invest more to harass now.
Yeah, it's crazy. Okay, great. Again, in ZvZ, what to do against fast muta builds? For example, 2-base muta. Should I do Hydra or should I go to muta myself?
So the reaction of what you can do to 2-base muta depends on your opener, realistically. And the way that goes is if you have a third base, okay? If you have a third, and if you know, okay, I have more drones than he does, like you've reacted to it in a way where you have a higher economy. What I would recommend you do is you could actually play a defensive droning with either style of Hydra or Muta. It does not matter. You could do either one. You just play defensive and make a few spores while you sit on a better economy. However, if you find yourself, regardless of if you have a third base or not, if you find yourself with a lower economy than your opponent, and the reason why is because you've made a lot of units to attack him with, you might want to just fully commit to it and all in him. And you can make these choices even more intelligently if you have scouted his gas and you can predict, oh yeah, no, it's going to be mutas. And let's just say you have already started making like a round of roaches and you're like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to add in a Bane nest or something like that. And I'm just going to do a full-on Ling Roach Baneling all in on his base. And I'm just going to kill him before mutas pop out. That would be very viable. It really just comes down to the initial read. And going all in is better if you know you're at an economy disadvantage because you've made units. And going for a defensive anything reaction is more viable if you've gone for a higher economy than him. But you can't, for instance, though, that you have to realize you cannot go, you know what, I'm going to go Hydras against mutas if you have like 28 drones and he has like 44 because you made so many Zerglings and you're like, I'll go Hydras now. Because if you do that, you're going to be like, wow, Hydras suck. They just die. Like, you have to have a better economy. So if that's the case for you, where you're like, okay, well, every time I do try to go Hydras, I always am behind in drones. I don't understand. That would be a case where I would say you would need to scout like the third base better. And if you realize he doesn't have one, then you really need to get a better read on his base and his main and his natural. Maybe send a Zergling in there if you can. And if you see like anything that tips you off with mutas, like whether it be like spines, gas is really fast, a layer super quick, stuff like that. Like it, and also the fact that he never makes Banes or never makes Roaches.
No, the thing is that I usually have better economy, but the guy makes a shitload of Balings and my Hydras die.
Okay, yeah, so
I try to do Roach Hydra, but it gets more difficult to control them, so I'm not sure what to do.
So, okay, in the situation where your opponent is like it's beyond Muta at that point, he's now also adding in Ling Bane and Muta. What you could do in a really easy defensive way is you could add in a Lurker Din, and I'm not even telling you, I said that really weird. I'm not even telling you that you have to be really aggressive with it, but what you could do is you could be very passive for a little while until you get a very high supply. And you could just put down like 3 lurkers at like each entrance to your base of like a vulnerable base, and you could maybe even space them a little bit so they can catch banes coming from multiple angles. But just like a couple of lurkers at like your third, a couple of lurkers at like your natural, and keep your hydras in the vicinity of the lurker, and you're going to be amazing. And you're also your roaches. And then if every time he tries to engage with like banelings, he's just going to be getting swiped down by lurkers over and over.
Nice. Good.
Yeah, and then keep in mind there's a couple things that make Hydra insanely good against Muta, and one is being supported by something. So if your opponent is really heavy on the Ling Bane side, supporting your Hydras with even more lurkers is great. Like go up to like 10 lurkers then, and you're going to be great. If your opponent is going deep on the Muta side, where you're like, okay, he has like a massive swarm of Mutas and not so many Ling Bane, but yeah, maybe he still does have Ling Bane, but it's so Muta heavy. Support your Hydras with like Viper, and then you'll be great. And just use Parasitic Bomb, or you could do that. I have recommended you not to do that in the past because you are Diamond, correct? You're not Masters yet.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Diamond too.
So you could try, like, if it is mass Mutas, you could try adding in just like a couple of Vipers to your army, and you could Parasitic Bomb his army. But in general, you also could win if you just get double upgrades of Carapace and weapons, and you don't let your Hydras just get swarmed down by banelings and stuff. Because
Good.
yeah, Carapace upgraded Hydras can auto attack down Mutas like crazy. Like they are quite good.
Good. Okay. The chat is going crazy about my battlecruiser accent, by the way.
I know. Ever since last time, battlecruiser operational, they fucking love you, man.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting famous. Okay. So let's start the game.
Sure. I'm ready when you are.
Okay. One moment. I should make you the host, I guess.
Yeah, once we're in the lobby host. Nice.
Good. And I should start watching the stream now.
Okay. Alright, so we'll in this game, do you do something more aggressive, or do you do something more macro focused, if you remember?
I believe it's micro focus, but
Okay.
it's an old game because all the other Terran games are like super crazy harassment that I just lose my shit.
Yeah. So here's another thing too, just throwing it out there. What I've started doing as well is I've started getting my tech of unit before I make my layer now. Because now, the reason why I used to go for layer first and then prioritize like Baneling Nest after and go for like Baneling Speed or something like that was because tank timings were definitely all the rage for Terran. But now it's all about these Hellbat timings and these massive Hellion timings and just these early pressures. So what I do now is I actually prioritize, I prioritize a Bane Nest or a Roach Run before I make a lair. So I'll do that like around maybe like 40 supply, or like when I have about like 50 to 80 gas, I'll throw one of those buildings down. Then this is assuming you take your drones off gas as well. I can make a I can make a build too, after we talk about this for a little bit, that I think you could use for the new versions of what's going on.
Oh, if you give me a build order, that would be great.
Yeah, I definitely will.
Yeah, because I guess the bronze to GM is now a little bit outdated for the ZvT at least.
I like like I was saying, the big thing is the layer priority and then the tech unit after, or the tech unit first and then layer after, so the tech unit priority instead. That's the big one. Because if you actually do something like, for instance, you go for a layer and then go for a Bane Nest, a lot of times what'll happen is Hellbats or a bunch of Hellions will show up to your base, as your baneling nest is still under construction, and you're like, oh well, I can't make banes now. Shit, like this is bad. So, like that's the big difference right there. Other than that, though, a lot of the BDGM stuff still applies.
Yeah, I guess. I'm talking about the build orders.
Yeah. The opener is it's harass. It's very harass heavy now, so yeah, it's definitely harder to hold. If you don't.
How can I recognize a 2-on-1 from the first overlord, or I can do that?
Okay, so
I guess
you can. So basically, when you get to their base, if you see a factory like this.
Yeah.
This looks more like a 1-1-1 opener. It does not look like a second Rax yet. This guy, he's also not making a reactor though, which is a little awkward. It seems like he's forgotten it, because I feel like he's going to make it at some point. But if you see a reactor and you see a factory at the same time, like if you look at the health bar of the building, it looks like they're lined up pretty well, because a reactor has a little bit less of a build time than a factory. But the way the build goes is the Terran will always make the factory first, and then they'll make the reactor with their next 50 gas after. So it will always be lined up relatively similar on build time, because it's like a 6-second difference or so, like a 7-second difference on the build time of the buildings. So again, if you see a reactor on a barracks and a factory that are lined up where it looks like they're going to finish at the same time, that is a 1-1-1, or at the very least, it's a fast factory. There's only one Rax there. However, if you were to see a reactor on this barracks that was like done already, and then the factory is like just starting, that is a 2-on-1. It's all about the reactor and the factory timing.
So if the factory is just starting, it's a 2-on-1.
If there's a reactor already on the racks and then the factory is also just starting, because what it tells you is it tells you what he prioritized. Did he prioritize the factory first, or did he prioritize the reactor first? And if he prioritizes the reactor first, it's a very high chance that that reactor is going to be basically done by the time the factory is starting.
Okay, yeah.
If
I see 2-on-1, I should go to Link Bane, I guess.
Yeah, Link Bane's solid still against 2-on-1. You can honestly open Link Bane against everything. But I do think roaches definitely have a lot of merit. If you have realized it is going to be a Hellion opener, because roaches are extremely solid at dealing with just Hellion pressures as a whole, and they're also better, I would say, than Banelings at dealing with people who go for Battlecruiser Hellion, because it's just easier. Because it's easier to not micro the roaches and then have the queen. You can focus on the queens, because the roaches will just win the fight, as long as you have enough of them. Also, roaches are good in a situation where the Terran's going to go into battle mech. If whatever opener they go for, any type of pressure, if it turns into like Hellion Cyclone, roaches are better there, I would say as well.
Yeah, I won a game last night against battle mech with Roach Ravager. So okay,
all right. So this dude's build, or go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say that when I go roaches and then I'm attacked with marine tank, it's a problem for me. So how should I defend that?
So when you are going up against marine tank, you should know this by
the tech lab on the factory, I guess.
Well, part of it. That is definitely going to be more of a tell, but. That could also mean, like, if you don't see any other buildings, that could also be for cyclones or something like that. If you see a lot of barracks mixed with that tech lab factory, then that's most likely going to be marine tank. But the way you're going to figure out if it's marine tank is going to be with your 4-minute scout. Your first overlord will not tell you that. I'll say this: it's very rare when somebody would have a factory with a tech lab ready to go on it when your first overlord gets here, because the only way that would ever really happen is if he goes double gas before command center and then makes a factory again before the command center. Very few Terrans play like that. So it's unrealistic to say that your first overlord is going to scout that. But your second overlord totally will, though, at 4 minutes.
Should I try to scout the gas too?
No,
I'm not sure.
Not with your first overlord.
I'm not sure whether I'm going to read it correctly.
Honestly, I would say this. With this game specifically, Your first overlord should have done this.
Okay.
The second you saw this, your first overlord should have immediately went to the cliff right now. If I were you, I would have taken this overlord, and I would have gone to the cliff where it's going now, where the shift command is, but I would have gone there now instead. And I would have also gotten... I also think you sent your overlord a little bit too deep into his base initially. The overlord should have been maybe, if you're looking at the stream right now, it should have been coming from an angle like this more instead of where it is. Like if it was coming from this angle, you could still see what you see, but you would also see the command center. So now what you got to do is you're going to have to go to the cliff, but you're going to have to like maybe shove in a little bit to the left at one point just so you can get tabs on the command center. If you wanted to keep your overlord alive and also see if he expanded. And it's most likely that he did expand because the way his buildings are timed, it's very likely that there's an expansion here. This looks very standard. Again, the fact...
Besides the reactor.
Yeah, well, the fact that there isn't a reactor yet is standard right this second. Because the factory's only been started for 4 seconds. And look at his gas. He's got 54 gas. This is standard because if he wasn't going to make a second Marine right now, he would be making a reactor, and it would be very normal. I mean, the fact that he wants to make 2 Marines is a little excessive on the Marines. But so far, his build is very standard. There's nothing weird about it. The thing that would look awkward for like going, oh, okay, it's not going to be Hellions, would be, again, if that reactor was like already, at this point, like 50% plus of the way done. And there was no factory at all. And then because he wouldn't be able to afford the factory as well. Right, or he would be able to start it, I guess, again, like, soon-ish. Within a few seconds, or I guess you could start it right now, too, because you can afford both. But, yeah. The reactor, but again, here's the thing, though. If this was going to be a 2-1-1, and he was going to have a reactor that fast, there would probably also not be a Marine here yet, because there would be a reactor, like, if he was going to make a Reaper than a reactor for faster Marine production, for proper timing, your overlord would probably not be getting shot at all. But, I mean, if there was going to be a second Marine, here's the thing. This is the thing where I wanted to make it. Hopefully, I'm not making it confusing. If it was going to be like a 2-1-1, and he was also going to go for a Reaper and also a Marine to deny your scout like this, it would be physically impossible for him to have a factory then, because look at his minerals, and you have to realize that a factory and a barracks cost the same amount of minerals. So the fact that he doesn't have enough minerals for both right now, it would mean that there would be a barracks somewhere else in his base that would be maybe started a little bit earlier than the factory was, because he could afford it by pure minerals and doesn't have to wait for any gas expense there. And then he could be starting a reactor on that racks right now, and he could be having a second barracks that's maybe like 30% of the way done in his base. And then with his next round of minerals at some point, when he can afford it, he would make the factory then. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so like right now, you should know by the fact that the factory is started already, and there's no add-on on his barracks. It's just as simple as that. It's Hellions. It should be Hellions if the build makes sense.
Good. Okay.
But yeah, your overlord committed way too deep with that shift command, and now it will die for that.
Yeah, that was obviously a mistake.
Yeah. I would say.
I'm not sure what.
Go ahead.
I believe it would have been dead, no matter what. There are 2 Marines there, but
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. If there's gonna be 2 Marines, it's probably not gonna make it to the cliff, and it will probably die. But if it was like a standard Terran who went for the 1 Marine and that was it, that would be it will always live if you get it out of there quickly. And then if you would have scouted the edge of the factory and just saw it and moved away immediately, like again, it was right. I think your overlord was not getting shot yet when that happened. Right. Okay, I just like skipped it again. My bad. Right. Now, if you turned it right now, your overlord would have lived, even if he makes 2 Marines, because he doesn't actually shoot you right away. Well, okay, he does, but I do think if you would have turned it the second you saw the factory, you actually would have lived. Because the amount of time it takes, the 18 seconds for that second marine to build, you probably could have made it to the cliff. But you would have had to have done it like immediately. The second you committed over that cliff at all, like right now, this is now, it's like double negative where you have to like backtrack what you just committed to and then go back to where you wanted to go in the first place. Yeah, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. It's not like, oh my god, this is going to end the game for you. It's just something that like, getting that read and understanding what that means immediately and being able to go, okay, I'm fucking out. We're good. I know what I need to know and I can leave now. That's obviously the goal here. And the second you saw that factory, the edge of it, and you just went, oh, it's a factory. You knew what it was. You already knew what it was because of how early your scout is. And the fact, again, all the reasons we described a second ago with like the reactor and all that stuff.
Forces under attack.
So just to make sure you're good, do you have anything that like you feel like doesn't make sense for you about what we just talked about, or is that feeling good?
Everything's great, thanks.
Okay.
Swarm forces under attack.
All right, and then so back to your build. You have Zergling speed. You have a queen popping out both bases. Okay, so that's so far one thing I don't like. The first thing about your build that I don't like is that you injected your both bases, and I would much rather prefer, especially now with heavy aggressive metas, a creep tumor at your natural. The reason why is because it allows you to get your creep to your third super fast, and it also increases the defense potential of your queens of Hellions, to have your queens defend against Hellions, which is also what he's doing. So, I would have said the inject would have been not the worst. I still would always prefer a creep tumor, I'm not gonna lie. But if you injected against it, if it was a 2-1-1, I would have been like, okay, that's not the worst, because you know he's not gonna harass you and on your creep, and maybe you could be a little greedier because you know you're not gonna get attacked for like up until 5 minutes. But if it's Hellions, which it is, you know you're gonna get you should be getting attacked. You should be. And if you don't have mobile queens, the longer it takes you to get mobile queens and the longer it takes you to have a good spread of creep, every single second that goes by where you're not getting that creep going, it makes your defensive engagements harder and harder and harder, because you're basically limiting your area. Like your area that you can use to defend is getting smaller and smaller by the second because of the delayed creep. So it'll just make it, you have less room to work with, basically. It's putting yourself into a tighter spot, essentially.
Swarm forces.
Good, okay, I'll know that.
And then also a big thing too. This is huge. Okay, you're doing it. You're just doing it on a different hatchery. I was gonna say you really need to start that third queen, but you're doing it in the main. That's fine. But yeah, that is definitely huge. Always start your third queen as, like, get your larva spent first, and then immediately start that queen as soon as you can after your larva's spent. One queen, and then as soon as your third base is done, you start 2 queens at a time, and you do like 2 rounds of them. So basically on 2 bases, while your third is being constructed, you'll go up to 3 queens. And then as soon as your third base is done, you will make 2 queens at a time until you're at like 7 queens. And that is 7 queens is a solid, that's like a well-rounded every game. It suits every game almost. So it's just like I would say for you for now, just go 7 queens every single game and you'll be fine. And what that allows...
injecting and 4 defensing, I guess.
Yes. Yep, exactly.
Okay.
And then it also allows you, if you really feel like you need it, you can rip one of the queens off at, like, let's say your third base. If he shows up with a pressure at your third base, and you could be like, all right, I now have 5 queens because I'm going to have the 4 roaming queens and the 1 injector. It's just going to help for now while I deal with whatever this is. And then as soon as you deal with it, you can send that one queen back to injecting, and then the rest of your queens that are still alive can go back to creep spreading and stuff. And then you can also use these creep spreading queens to, you can rip them off one by one as time goes on, as you get more bases and more hatcheries, and you can have them inject more bases. Alright, so now this is that moment. And also, okay, so the big thing, this is huge. Alright. Always, the first tumor should always be from natural to third, And then your second tumor could be where it is, which this actually would have been your second tumor, theoretically. Because your first inject in your natural should have been a creep tumor. But like what I'm trying to say here though is the fact that you didn't put a tumor down at your natural, and now also on top of that, the fact that you're putting your first tumor that is late in your main, this makes it, again, this is now double negative here, where you've missed 2 rounds of a creep tumor that needed to be made to go to your third, which is, that's basically almost like a minute of time here that's now missing for creep. So that's huge at the terms of like that tight spot I said you were going to be in a second ago. It's even tighter now. Like you're going to have such limited mobility here to deal with Hellion Harass or Hellbat or whatever it's going to be. And if you somehow don't have creep connected between your bases of your third and your natural, by the time he does show up with an attack and your queens are walking really fucking slow to get to your third, that is like basically you're dead. Like that is about the worst thing you could do for yourself. Okay, you're making a tumor now. It's still very late, but I'm glad that you're doing it. Alright, here's another thing too. This is a very good way to play it out, I would say. Your first queen at your natural, okay, it should do this. It should walk to the edge of your creep. It should throw a tumor down, and then that queen should chill for a little bit at your natural because of the Reaper. But then as soon as the third queen that is being built in your natural, okay, as soon as that queen is at like 60% of the way done, or like 50%, it's like about halfway, and you're no longer really worried about a Reaper getting to your mineral line and killing drones again because the queen's almost out, you should send that queen that just threw a tumor down to your third. And the reason why this is important is because what you can do is the queen at your natural that just threw a tumor down can go to your third, and it can become an injector for your third the second it's done. And then your queen at your natural that is being built while you send that first queen to your third base, that can also become an injector. So that first tumor can spread all the way to your third, and it can connect your bases, the important ones, at this point in time, while you do triple inject on your hatcheries after that. And then the queens that you make 2 at a time after become creep spread, creep spread, creep spread, creep spread, all creep. But this, if you do it this way, it protects your third really, really well because you get that first tumor that can spread like 3 times before your next queen spawn to start making tumors. And then it also allows you to maximize lots of inject. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Yo, Savant, thank you very much for the sub, dude. Much love. And then you're also, I think you're putting tumors too close together, and you're neglecting that third inject for a very long time. So your third base definitely is missing injects like crazy, and you're putting your tumors way too condensed. Definitely try to like do it in this order if you can. First tumor goes to from your natural to your third, and then the next 2 queens that spawn that you are going to make double tumors with, one of those tumors should go from your main to your natural, or to your natural to your main, whatever. Just connect your main to your natural. And then the other tumor should be in front of your third base to push outwards, where where the Reaper is right now, in front of your third. Because you want to, again, you want to give yourself as much surface area as possible, and you want to give yourself as much warning as possible too. I mean, I like that you have an overlord in front of your base. That is nice, but being able to have creep over this entire cliffside would make it so much easier if you had to like chase down a battlecruiser, or kite hellbats back towards your hatchery. It just gives you way more room to work with, so you don't get fucked by an attack. And also, creep spread is also just really nice in general, just because of the fact that the better your creep is, the more map control it gives you throughout the entire game, right? Like the faster it spreads towards the middle and his side of the map, the better it is for you. And like something like this too. The better your creep is, the scarier it is for the Hellions to approach you and do things like try to harass you in between your bases. Like if you had creep right now that was all the way down that ramp already, which it totally could be, and also this base was like you had creep connecting your third to your natural, and then creep was going down this ramp already, you could have easily run past the Hellions and killed the Hellions right now, because you have high mobility while he tries to overcommit into your base. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, like it would just increase your odds to like take good defensive engagements. And the fact that he's committed this hard to your base, you have enough lings to kill this. You totally could kill this if you had proper creep. And right there too, you actually could have killed it again, but there was a missed opportunity We're not going to talk too much about this, but we will talk a little bit about this just because you are diamond, so I do think this is relevant. I'm going to back it up for a second and just go right to where I think you kind of missed an opportunity, which is right about now. So right now, you could have moved commanded kind of behind where his Hellions are, cut him off from the ramp, and then just gotten on his face, basically. Like shoved him deeper into your creep, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. And then he just does it himself anyways. He like did you a favor by committing deeper into your creep. He didn't actually play conservative at all. He was just like, fucking, we're going right to that mineral line, bitch. Like, like he doesn't care at all. But the second he committed like this, I'm going to ask you a question and then I'm going to tell you the answer afterwards. I just want to I want to get your mind thinking here. What do you think the best way to micro this would be right now for you?
To move past the Hellions down below them, and then attack move them.
Yes, that's perfect. That is exactly what you should do, because you have way more speed than he does. And if you cut off his exit, and then you force him to drive deeper into your creep the other way, if he's going to go the opposite way now, all that does is it increases your odds to kill the Hellions repeatedly. But if you just A-move him, and you don't cut him off, and you allow him to just drive out of your base, as soon as he's off creep, the threat level of Lings being there to kill his Hellions is way lower. Like Hellions Hellions are not really afraid of Lings off creep, unless it's a situation where it's like 50 Lings versus like 5 Hellions, where it's like, holy fuck, that's way too many. But you have easily enough Lings right now to kill 4 Hellions. And what happens here is you A-move him, and the second he gets off creep, I'm glad that you didn't chase him, by the way. You basically what you did there is you zoned him. You could have killed him, but you zoned him. It's still not bad, but it could have been better. Because if you kill those Hellions, what that does for you then is it goes, oh, I don't even need to make roaches at all. I don't need anything. I can just drone. I could literally take a 4th base right now and just drone, because he just lost all harass potential, and that means for the next like minute I have nothing to worry about, because if I still have an army here, it'll take him just a minute alone just to catch back up to what I already have again in army wise, like army size. Like he'll remake these 4 Hellions in a minute, or he would actually make about 6 Hellions in a minute off of a reactor. But you get my point. Like it's not going to be threatening for at least a minute now, because you still have an army that's still there, and it just gives you that extra drone window that is super safe.
Swarm forces under attack.
Also, sorry guys about wipe my nose. I have like really bad allergies today.
I'm not sure what I'm doing here.
Okay.
Yeah, I've missed that queen.
Yeah, it's
That was obviously a mistake.
yeah, it's all good. One of the biggest mistakes I can see going on for you right now, though, is the lack of injects at your 3rd for sure for as long as it's been, and you're rushing your macro hatch a little too fast, I would say, and your evo chambers. This is all a little too early. You want to be throwing down these macro hatch. Like the timings of these buildings hasn't changed since B2GM style. You would want to throw down your evos and your macro hatch once you're fully saturated on your 3rd base, and then you're like starting saturation on your 4th base, essentially. Because throwing it down right now, all it's doing is it's tying your money up that shouldn't have to be tied up right now. Like if you were injecting 3 bases at once constantly, you would never be able to afford this. But again, the reason why you can afford this is because you have not injected your 3rd once yet. So and your 3rd's been done for like 2 minutes now. So that's like probably around like 12 larvae that you're missing. That could have been on this hatchery. And if you think about 12, like think about it like this: what's 12 larvae in terms of drone costs? It's like 600 minerals right there. And then if you were to talk about how much you just spent on the hatchery and the double evo here, that is 750. So like this alone could have been like pretty much just drones. And then if you think about what other costs there could be, you don't have enough queens yet, and you should definitely have more queens in production too. Like you're not actually at the ideal queen number yet. And then also if you think about like overlords, like what I'm trying to say is there's plenty of costs that you're going to need to be spending on, before you are going to do things like take the macro hatch and take the double evo. And it all comes from the fact that, again, your larva is lower than it should be right now, just by generation of it. And yeah, you know, I feel like a part of that was probably because you got distracted by the harass and stuff like that, and your overlord died, so it probably gave you an uneasy feeling of like, shit, what's going on? But anyways, moving on from that, I feel like you get, like, the biggest one is make queens up to 7, and then also inject your third base as soon as possible after that first tumor, and then you'll have lots of larvae to use. But going back to your scouting, I really like your scout again. I think the scout is maybe a little late, but the fact that you're doing it in the first place is good, and you're getting a read, and this fusion core is telling you what exactly? Would you say, what would you say this fusion core is telling you?
A battle cruiser.
Exactly. It's operational. Yeah, fucking perfect.
It's operational, yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah, I mean, it's your read on what's going on now, scout wise, is good. I would say you did not overmake lings. You did not overmake roaches. Your composition is fine so far. It's just your macro wise is a little lacking. Things are a little out of order and the larva is missing, but otherwise good shit so far, scout. And I really like that you have scouts at his thirds. So on top of this, you also know, okay, I haven't seen a third yet in his natural. Or sorry, I haven't seen a third yet in his main, and I don't see a third yet at his third. The only thing you would have to look at is maybe at this point, send a ling to his natural to see if he has one in the wall, because you don't know that yet. And if we were to look at everyone's vision, he actually doesn't have that.
Say the thing plaza, we want to hear the thing.
He actually doesn't have a command center at his natural yet, so I mean, that would confirm, you know. Actually, I'm gonna ask you a question. If you scout through his main and you see, okay, no third, and then you have overlords at his third and you see, okay, yeah, still no third. He's not being really greedy and building it at the third. And then if you were to scout his natural with a ling and you were to see, okay, no third again, what do you think a good reaction to this, with what you've seen, would be?
Some spores for the battlecruiser and maybe some roaches for the Hellions.
Yeah, I would agree with you.
And a little bit of drones, I guess.
So
because I'm quite far behind currently.
Give me some numbers of what you think would be good. So I want you to give me, how many spores would you make?
I'm currently making 3 per base.
3 per base is what you're gonna.
Yep.
So you're making 9 spores in total.
Yeah.
That is.
But I don't have 7 queens to defend.
Yeah.
Battle cruiser
so,
operational.
3 spores per base is definitely an overcommitment. I would never recommend that. The only time I would ever say 3 spores per base would be acceptable would be if you scouted his base right now and you saw double starport and it was like going double port battlecruiser and there was like literally no Hellions at all, or there was like very little of anything else. Then I'd be like, okay, yeah, this dude is fucking crazy on the BCs, and if you want to overcommit a little bit to air defense here, that's okay. But if it's like standard one starport BC, the fact that this guy can transition to whatever he wants out of this, it doesn't have to stay on BCs all game. That triple spore per base is definitely going to be a massive deficit for you. It's overcommitted for sure. So just in that alone, for like I like that you also said, but I don't have 7 queens. Just start making 7 queens from now on, and that's going to be such a better option for you than 3 spores per base. So the real right answer I would say is 1 spore per base. The timing of which you're building it is, I would say, maybe a little late, and that's only because your scout was a little late. If you got this scout read off maybe like 40 seconds earlier, you could have actually built your spores a little bit sooner. And I think that the timing of your spores is actually okay against specific battlecruisers. But if you would have seen for instance, a tech labbed starport, and you would have not had spores started yet, and the Banshee shows up to your base, it could be very annoying. It could be super fucking annoying. Because the thing is it actually is a lot faster to go for a cloaked Banshee than it is to go for a battlecruiser. Just to give you some numbers here, okay? I just want to explain this to make you really fully understand what I'm saying here. A fusion core takes 46 seconds to build. A battlecruiser takes 64 seconds to build. So that means that it's 110 seconds to build a battlecruiser. As soon as he makes the start, like if you were to start it the second when the starport's done, if you started the fusion core and then a battlecruiser, it's 110 seconds, almost 2 minutes, and then he could teleport to your base the second it's done. However, a Banshee only has a tech lab build time of 18 seconds, and then a Banshee's build time itself of 43 seconds, which is 61 seconds in total. So it's like almost half the time for a Banshee to be built, and then if you were to account for the time it takes for a Banshee to cross the map too, that's probably like 30 seconds. So it's what I'm trying to say is a cloaked Banshee will arrive at your mineral line maybe like 20 seconds earlier than a battlecruiser will be teleporting to your base, if he does both as fast as he can, because the cloak would finish in the duration it would take him to cross the map after building the Banshee. So if again your scout read needs to be a little bit sooner, so again the perfect timing I would say to scout into his base would be maybe like right at 4 minutes. If you can get your overlord moving into his base between 4 minutes to 4:15, that window of time is perfect to give you a read on what his opener is going to be, because you would see the fusion core started by then, and you would also see the tech lab starport. And if you see the tech lab starport and you don't see a fusion core, that would be when it would be like, all right, maybe we should start spores at like 5 minutes instead of like 5:30. And then if you did that, you would have zero pressure to be like, oh fuck, a cloak Banshee's in my mineral line and now I have to start spores now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. So spore wise, little late again because of the scout, and too many. 7 queens and 1 spore per mineral line and you're good. Now you already know queens, so I feel like that's irrelevant. I'm not going to ask you that. 7 is the number we're going to go for. I'd highly recommend it because it's very versatile. It allows you to deal with BC openers. Excuse me. And then it also allows you to deal with lots of other things too, like medevac pressures, Banshee pressures, liberators. It allows you to have really good creep spread. So many things that has positive impacts about going 7 queens. And then not only does it allow you to have good creep spread, but it allows you to also rotate some of these queens back into injecting when your hatchery count goes above 3. So if you have 5 hatcheries, you could literally have 5 injecting queens with only 2 creep spreading queens, because you're still working with the initial 7 you had. And then finally, the last thing I want to ask you is, you said roaches, and I agree with you on that, but how many roaches would you think you should make against someone who's going to open up Hellion BC to be safe?
Maybe around 10.
Okay, perfect. Yep, I agree. I think anywhere between 8 and 10. 10 is definitely on the extreme side, but 10 is still acceptable. 10 is like, I want to be really safe. 8, I would say, is the greedier side, but 8 is also perfect, where it's like, I feel confident with 8, but I'm not overcommitting. So again, if you make anywhere between 8 and 10, I will never critique it and be like, no, dude, this is ridiculous, like it's too much or too little. 8 to 10 is perfect. 10 allows you to make a mistake here and there and be okay still. 8 is like, if you make a mistake, it'll be a little bit more punishing, but it's still going to be pretty good. But yeah, so that's, yeah, you have that down. The only thing you really messed up there was your spores. And obviously your queens are not ideal right now, but yeah. All right, so I will say this. We're going to let it go to 6 minutes now, and then I'm going to give you a number here. Okay. So at 6 minutes, you are... we're going to kind of fly through this replay now, because I feel like this replay is no longer valid. So I will honestly, I'll talk about your micro choices later on and just give you like some brief options here. But right now, you should actually have almost double the drones you do. And I know you just lost 4 drones to Hellions, which is not that crazy. But you should actually have double the drones that you do. Realistically, you should have roughly like 66 plus at 6 minutes. And the reason why you don't is because of all the things we just talked about up to this point. You didn't inject the third. I don't honestly know if the third's ever been injected up to this point, even now. The excessive spore usage and the unoptimal build of like hatchery and evos way too early, things like this. Like all these things added up have put you to a point where you have 35 drones at 6 minutes when you should again be around 66. So that what we'll do for that is I'm going to give you a build after this replay's over, and we can just clean that up really fucking hard. We can be like, all right, this is what you should ideally be going for. This is like your overall every game ideal situation. This is what you do. So we'll make you that, and I'll honestly do it with a roachhorn for you, and I'll give you ways. So okay, let's just say this. Let's just say this before we move on from this. If you scout a 2-1-1, and we talked really hard early on in this game about how to read that. If you see, oh, it's a 2-1-1, you could skip roaches and you could go Ling Bane, and you could still do the 66 drones type thing, but you could just focus on Ling Bane, and you're good to go. If you don't see a 2-1-1 and you see what looks like this, where it's like Hellion BC or just like Hellion Opener, which is what I would say most Terrans are going to do in this meta, we'll give you a Roach Opener that has the ability to transition into Ling Bane if it becomes bio, or it could stay roaches if it's mech. And you're going to figure that out by a 6-minute Overseer Scout, which is what we talked about earlier, right? You'll do an initial scout, a 4-minute scout, and a 6-minute scout, because look what's happening in his base right now. He's making more barracks at 6 minutes. If you had an Overseer fly through his base right now, you would know it's bio. So this would tell you you could make roaches initially for the Hellion battlecruiser, and so you could have Roach Queen initially to defend that, and then it would just become Ling Bane, and you could go Ling Bane Hydra, and it would be super solid. From this point on, you could do that, and what the early opener gives you is a good economy to actually do this properly with. So again, I will make you the build for that in a minute, or after this replay is over. But up to that concept, do you have any questions about what we just talked about?
No, everything's great.
Okay, so now we're gonna go through this really fast now, because again, this game is kind of skewed, and we'll just talk about your choices, like your decision making. So you definitely need to be making drones for sure. I would say attacking him is definitely out of the question. The fact that he doesn't have a third is still nice for you, because you are saturating your third, so you're still somewhat maintaining a lead, even though you guys have very similar worker counts. Okay, now you see the third base. That's super late though, and you also saw his composition. But the fact that you saw his super late third should give you a little bit of confidence. But when you compare your build to his. But yeah, I mean, your build could definitely be a lot faster, like we talked about. And now if you haven't realized now, which I think you have, that he's going bio. Now you really know he's going bio because he's attacking you with a marine drop. So going into you've chosen to go Hydras, which is totally fine, and Bane speed, and you're going into 1/1 upgrades with range weapon. I would say honestly, never get this range weapon upgrade unless you've confirmed it's mech. Don't bother getting it otherwise. But I think the reason why you got it this game, again, is because you made your evos so fucking early. Which is another hiccup in your build. So, because think about it like this. I told you not to make the evo chambers and also the 4th hatchery until your third base is fully saturated. And your third base is still not fully saturated at 8.5 minutes. So that's super late, because it could have been fully saturated at 6 minutes. So your build, because doing things like this when you can't afford them, all it does is it makes you not able to afford anything after it, because it's like a hiccup in your build over and over and over and over and over and over and over.
It's a vicious cycle.
It is, man. It's super vicious. And then he kills your Bane Nest, which sucks. I mean, that's unfortunate. I'm glad you rebuilt it right away, but that definitely is annoying for you. And now you're committing even deeper into +2 weapons on range. Don't do this. Ever. I think you're doing this because you're thinking, I'm going to just go... You might actually be going Roach. You're not going Roaches anymore. I know you're doing it because of Hydras, and you did get Roach speed. I'm not going to beat you up over getting Roach speed that much because Maybe like there could be possibilities where you might start roach speed and you don't know what he's going for, and if he is going mech, it would be nice to have that. You really don't need it though if he's going bio, because you're not going to make roaches anymore. The idea is roaches are done now. You don't want them anymore, unless he was going mech. But going for range weapons is not necessary if you're going to go for hydras. And the reason why is because hydras are going to be such a minor aspect of your army. Like, we're talking, you're going to have about 40 supply of hydra, and you're going to have like 100 or like 80 supply of Lingbane or Ultra or something at some point. Like, you're going to have such an emphasis on the melee units. Because if you're going up to like 80 supply of Hydra, that's way too many Hydras for a Lingbane Hydra style. Like, you want to honestly make up to 20 Hydras and stop. And the whole point of that is all it really is designed for is to pick off drops to help punish things when you push into him. Like, pick off tanks faster, pick off medevacs faster whenever you're shoving into his army. Pop a command center when he lifts off and tries to fly it away, or if you're overpowering a base or anything like that. But it's just added support damage. It's not your frontline actual real damage. Your frontline real damage should be focused on Lingbane, always, with this style. And then eventually into like Ultra, if you want to go into Ultra, that's also fine. Ultras get really good if he doesn't have, one, a lot of Liberators, and if also he starts getting a lot of bases, Ultras become super good then too. So he's dropping you, and he's hitting you with the battlecruiser, and he's also doing a third attack with his main army. A great way to deal with this would be, again, if you had better creep spread than this, you would have seen this all coming from further away. Another thing I want you to work on is I want you to work on spreading your overlords around the map, like on the edges of the map, so you can see things like drops more often. Because right now you are giving yourself like zero vision with overlords. Like, every overlord you have is and you're having a powwow in front of your natural right now, unless it's an overseer, which is roaming with your army, but you have no coverage of the sides of the map. So basically what I want you to do with your overlords is overlords 1 and 2 go across the map. Like, your second overlord could stay in front of your natural for a little bit to see for proxies and stuff like that, but ideally overlord 1 and 2 go across the map to scout him for the initial scout and the 4-minute scout, and then overlords 3, 4, 5 stay in front of your base for like the way your overlord was in front of your third base earlier in this coaching lesson, when I was like, I like this overlord placement when it was over the Reaper. It's nice to have like ramp overlord vision, or like just frontal vision in front of your base, so you can see where he goes before your creep is there, because it's always going to happen. Your creep cannot spread that fast. So the overlord is like the supplement to that. But then as soon as your creep is like decently spread, you can remove these front 3 overlords and put them on the edges of the map. But then anyways, no matter what, overlords 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, whatever, all these overlords that are chilling in front of your natural, they should be filling in the gaps of the map like this. Like overlord there, overlord there, overlord there, 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 there. You just literally, and the way you can do it, every time you make an overlord, as you make the overlord in an egg, rally the egg to that spot and do like the closest outwards. Be like, so I put one there, make another overlord, put one there, make another overlord, put one there, make another overlord, put one there, another one, put one there, another one, put one there. Just rally the egg literally over and over. So when you make an overlord, just I'll get in the habit of rallying the egg when there's nothing else going on. If you're currently busy and you're just making overlords and you're like dealing with Hellion harass, don't worry about rallying the overlord then. Just make the overlord and say, fuck it, we're good. But if you get in the habit of rallying the egg of an overlord to a spot like this, you'll have way more often good scout spotting, like good spotting overlords in the open like this, because it's a habit of yours. You'll develop a habit for that. So I'd highly recommend that, because I think one of the big reasons why this is a problem for you right now is because you had no idea the drop was coming to your base. Like, you do have a read that he's pushing your base in the bottom, but like to a degree. But because you have very limited scouting, what's happening is your army is going into a panic mode, and you're actually going to the drop, but now this is opening you up to the third base. Like, for instance, if you would have seen this drop coming to your base in your main, you could have actually put your queens here. Like, if he teleports the battlecruiser as well, you don't know that he's going to do that. That's always oh shit, he teleported over here. But if you would have put your queens in your main, the queens literally could have stopped this entire drop. Battlecruiser teleports into your fourth base. You just run the drones for a second. He then pushes your base as well with bio tank, with just he's YOLOing on creep. If your ground army were to shove his bio tank right now, you 100% would crush this without even any retention. It would just die. Like Terran would get fucking destroyed because he does not have enough medevacs to evacuate the majority of his army. So you're going to kill the majority of it on creep. He's not sieged, so you don't have to worry about that either. And he's also spread out, so you could easily get multiple surrounds and kill multiple parts of his army. And then your queens could easily focus. Like if you had like the 7 queen thing we talked about, you could have like 5 in the main, because you could have the 1 injecting and the 4 roaming queens in the main, and you could easily pop these medevacs super fast if you just focus fire at the medevacs. And then you could run the drones at your other base and just don't even like you are running the drones already. So I think you're capable of doing all this micro, because it would literally be Ling Bane, A move the fucking ground army at the bottom, queens stand in the position to absorb these medevacs that I keep seeing walk past, or they fly past my overlords, so I'll be ready to catch him when he comes over here. And then you're like, oh, I'm surprised by the BC, drones run away, just go somewhere else for a second. And then you don't even have to focus fire the Ling Bane, just let it A move, and you would crush his army, because he's walking in the middle of a creep, with no, like, it's so risky what he's doing. And then if you just focus fired the medevacs and threw like 1 or 2 transfuses out on your queens, and suddenly both medevacs die, and you also then go, oh well, look, my Ling Bane army just wiped out the bottom army, and my queens are now fighting whatever bio is left up here. Send your Ling Bane back up to the top to deal with the remaining bio if it's not, you know, if it's a little scary, if it's too much for your queens to handle. And then you could just send your drones back to the middle line with, again, your queens to go take the BC, like push the BC away. And then you'd be great. Also, here's another thing too we need to talk about. I want to look at how long your hatchery was done for before you built the spore crawler. Or you don't even build one. But every time you ever, if you know your opponent has the ability to go for any type of air harass at any point in the game ever, whether it's oracles, void rays, banshees, battlecruisers, if you know he has access to that unit, every time you make a new base, build a spore at it. Every time. So you should also, just like I said, getting in the habit of making overlords go to open spots, get in the habit of it, the second a new base is done, make a spore at it in the middle of your middle line. And I think you might have said something there. You're going to say something. Please feel free to, if you have anything you want to ask or anything like that, feel free to say anything.
Okay.
Because I know I am talking a lot. I just want to make sure you're getting your chances to say whatever you want to say too. But yeah, so just getting in the habits of covering yourself, giving yourself good defense and things like that, for sure. But so like your defense, I think could have been a lot easier handled. But yeah, that's. I feel like the panic mode kind of ensued there, and that resulted in your third now getting killed. Or really not getting, it doesn't look like it's gonna die, but it, like, I don't know what he was doing there. But like you took a little bit of damage. You still kill him anyways. Like, just imagine though if you would have not lost anything at your third because you had your army here in the first place, and you just ran him over anyways. Like your army just proved that even though he was sieged and set up, you still ran his ass over because he was so deep on creep, and he was so risky because he had so few medevacs with that push. That you just had an overwhelming amount of stuff that could just run him over. Like, even though I would say that was not the greatest defense, you still handled that relatively well, though. Like, you shut down the drop in your main, didn't lose anything in your main, really. You lost very minimal things in your third base, and you pulled the drones, so you didn't lose your drones at your other base, too. But now here's the thing, though. Looking at production tab, you're making an ass load of lings again, and you're on a very low drone count. You only have 3 drones in production. You have 24 lings. And you're sitting on 56 drones to 72 SCVs. So not ideal. I don't mind this counterattack, but at the same time, I don't want you to take a fight. I would say the only time I would ever want you to take a fight like this with your counter is if you don't see a defensive army there. You never actually want to fight with your You never want to fight with your Hydras without Lingbane. You don't ever want to risk the Hydras dying, essentially, with this style, is what I'm trying to say. Because every time you throw Hydras away, replacing them is way more expensive. And you don't want to be replacing them. Your Hydra number overall, though, 19, is very solid. That's very good. If like, being around like 17, 18, 19, 20, that's super good. That's very, very, that's a desirable Hydra number. But now look at this. You're trying to kill the planetary, and what's happening? Your Hydra count now just dropped down to 10. So you just lost 9 Hydras trying to kill that planetary. Like, I don't give a shit how many Roaches died there, but your Hydras, because you don't want to remake Roaches. So ideally, you're not going to remake Roaches. But losing 9 Hydras there just to maybe kill a planetary when he's currently defending it was a super risky move. Definitely never do that to yourself. Always engage with Lingbane, and then make sure if you realize like, oh, Lingbane's starting to thin out, I don't want to lose my Hydras here. You should always have that mindset of going, if my Lingbane is thinning out and I know I'm not going to push anymore here, let's not just keep trying to push by trading Hydras away and losing a bunch of Hydras. Just back off, make more Lingbane. Because if you do that, replacing Lingbane is so much cheaper and faster than replacing Hydras. And if you also do this, the fact that it's cheaper allows you to have faster tech swaps into things like Ultras or something like that later on, which is so... Like, the way this guy's playing, if you actually switched into Ultras, like 7 Ultras with a bunch of Lingbane Hydra, you would run this guy over. Because he has very light tank count, and he's got very high Marine counts with his army. Like, look at his production. It's pure Marine. Look at his current composition. It's 18 Marines and 1 Marauder. Yes, he has a couple tanks, but, like... tanks are not the greatest either, if there's also a lot of Lingbane supporting it. Of the Ultra, I mean. Because then the tanks also shoot Lings, and the Ultras just collapse on the tanks, and if Ultras get on top of tanks, they just annihilate tanks as well. Alright, so going faster again. Throw out this. And yeah, your biggest problem here again is your drone count. You did make another round of drones to go back up to 73. But even then, 73 is kind of a weak drone count, I would say. Like, go to like 85, honestly. Which is almost like almost another full mineral line. It's not quite full mineral line, but it's pretty close. Because what's happening right now is you're playing a style that is going to start trading a lot, and the less economy you give yourself, the weaker your trades will become because you can't replace as often. Like right here, I'm gonna go back and watch that fight. So, like, you're getting fucked up in this fight massively because 2 reasons. Your macro's been weak, so you have a weaker army size than he does. And number 2, you're taking a fight off creep for no reason. Like, if you really thought about, if you were to go back and in hindsight go, what am I fighting for in this location? What is the point? There is no point, because you're not defending. Like, there's no base to the right side of your Lings right now, where they are right now. There's no hatchery there. There's nothing that needs to be defended here. And all you're thinking to yourself instead is, he's got an army that's in the middle of the map. Maybe I should just run it over. But in realistic terms, though, the chances of it happening are less likely when your economy has been undersaturated for so long and you're taking a fight off creep. Because even if you were at 176 supply right now, even if that was the case, I would say you would still probably lose this fight. And the reason why is because Zerg takes inefficient trades if you fight off creep. That's just how it goes. So the only time I would ever recommend that it makes sense to fight off creep is if there's a purpose in mind where you're putting time against the Terran by doing something like you're hitting a mineral line, which is making the Terran do risky things like trying to run really fast with Stimpack to go save his SCVs, or trying to clump up his SCVs to like get out of there, and maybe you could like take a fight off creep by maybe taking a little bit of an inefficient trade with your Banes into some Marines, but the goal is not to kill all the Marines. The goal is to get that juicy hit on the Banelings with the SCVs. Or something like, you're going for like a target that makes sense to fuck up, like maybe killing a command center. But again, you're not trying to sacrifice your whole army in this process. You're just allowing yourself to take a minorly cost inefficient trade to do economic damage, which is why, if you remember, I said I didn't mind that attack when you were hitting us the middle left base. I was like, yeah, I don't mind it. But as soon as he was there to defend it, I was like, okay, now it's kind of a bad choice. It makes sense to go for economy off creep. That's okay if you think you can get it. If you feel like you're in control of doing that. But as soon as you realize he's going to defend it, or you don't have overwhelming numbers to just run his ass over, back off and try your best to let a fight happen on creep for you. And you can also force fights to happen on creep by doing something like this, okay? Think about this concept. Instead of using your entire army to just rush an engagement off creep, what if instead you use small bits of supply, like 10 or 20 supply, which is exactly what Terran does to you when he drops you, to do like run buys into his base. So you have like 10 to 20 supply of Zergling and Baneling running into his natural, running into his main, running into another base that's an orbital command. And what if you wipe out a mineral line that he's not currently defending? And if he is defending it, that is also a high mobility army. You just run away and you attempt to go attack somewhere else. And you repeat this process until you find a mineral line that is actually open. And suddenly you do damage. And you're like, oh, fuck, I just wiped out a mineral line. That's sick. Like, I just ruined a lot of his economy. And then the Terran goes, well, fuck, that sucks. I need to go attack him now. Because if he doesn't attack you, and you just do it again, and you just do it again, and you just do it again, you can keep crippling his economy over and over and over while you transition yourself into something like a better army that maxes out. And you can, if you also keep him defensive, what does that also do for you? That allows you to spread creep in his face over and over and over because he's not on the map anymore. Now he's playing super defensive. If you can basically force a push out from the Terran by making him feel uncomfortable, that's so much better for Zerg to take a fight on creep than it is for you to be the guy who goes, fuck it, let's take a fight off creep in the middle of the map. Because that is good for Terran then. You never want to do that. If you can be patient and force... Again, your goal is to make the Terran feel uncomfortable, not for you to feel uncomfortable, because your comfort level should come from your creep, which is why it's so important. The better the creep, the more comfortable you should feel, because taking engagements on that is ideal for Zerg, for sure.
If I see that his army is down below, can I Nidus him in his main base?
Yeah, go for it. Yep, I would say Nidusing him would be go ahead.
With something like 30 links, not the whole army, of course.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be wonderful. I would love that. That shouldn't be your only way to attack him, though. You should definitely also maybe posture around the map and try to poke him here and there, just by running over there on like the opposite side. So like if he's positioned on the south side, you could run on the north side and avoid him, and then just run to his base. That's also possible.
And if he has a planetary there,
you can make Banelings.
Okay.
So like if it was a planetary, you could make Ling Bane attack it. Like maybe 20 Banelings and like 20 Zerglings, which is literally 20 supply.
Yeah.
And then you could just have the Banes roll into the mineral line, and then once they're in the mineral line, they just explode on the SCVs and the planetary itself if he doesn't run away. Otherwise, if he does run away, you just blow up the planetary and just kill it quickly. So then you can like salvage the majority of your Lings and Banes that are still there. And then if he doesn't attack you on your creep and he just sits there again, just do it again. Make another round of Ling Bane and hit the next space. Keep doing this repeatedly. And again, if you want to do a Nidus with it, that's totally fine. I am all for that. Just taking a fight like this, though, where you shove your whole army into his army, this is a good way to throw the game. Like, this is definitely going to be a losing fight for you. And now you've just lost, like, all of your Hydras, essentially, except for one. And that one Hydra might even die to the tanks as it runs away. Maybe? No. But that's so expensive what just died for you. And if this Terran realized the kind of momentum he has right now, and if he just pushed you, that'd be, and also if he macroed and spent his bank, you would be absolutely dead right now. So, like, just, and the reason why that happens is because you were behind, and also you took a fight off creep, which is going to put you even further behind. So he just shoved a bunch of weak Marines into you without tank coverage. I don't understand that. Like, this guy's obviously making mistakes himself too, right? And he's not macroing anything. But just be more patient and just allow yourself to fight on creep more, and you will have such better mid-game fights. I can't stress that enough because it's so important. The creep game is like the way you win ZvT at higher levels. Because you got to think about it like this too. This is a concept. Because you've allowed yourself to fall behind, it allows Terran to do something like contain your creep. And now it makes it harder to then spread creep. So every time you make a mistake and you allow Terran to gain control of the map, you prevent your army from being able to push forward and take more creep. And the more and more this happens, the harder it will be to gain control of the game from then on, unless the Terran makes massive mistakes. So just never take fights off creep unless you have to. Like, for instance, let's just say your third base was where it is now, like the one that you were just saving against the Marines, and he was pushing you, and he's going to kill the third if you don't defend it. Obviously, you have to defend your base then, right? So you have to fight off creep. That's not ideal. That means that you've made mistakes before that. Maybe like your Hellion defense or something like that was really bad. But that's not ideal, but it's still a bad situation they have to deal with. Because if you just let your base die, you're going to lose the game anyways. But fighting in the middle of nowhere for no base, there's no reason to fight there at all. There's no reason to fight there. So what's the point? Like, it's just impatience. It's just going, well, he's there, I'm here, let's just take a fight. Like, you don't need to do that, though. You can definitely manipulate the game in other ways to your advantage. Like we just talked about a minute ago with the Lingbane counters and stuff like that. Just don't ever do that, though. If there's no reason to take a fight, if you're literally fighting over nothing, don't fight him unless he commits to creep. And instead, focus on making him feel impatient by countering him with bits and pieces of your army to make him then go, fuck, okay, well now I gotta go because I'm dying. Make him be the one who feels impatient, so he does what he did earlier in the game where he just walks deep into creep and is like, fuck it, I'm going. And then you get way better engagements.
Okay.
Because again, the only reason why this guy's even letting you stay in the game is because he does not macro. He has 10,000 resources. Now he's got like 12,000. He just doesn't macro. Like, I think you are definitely you spend your money better than he does. I mean, that's obviously it's a given. But I was about to say you macro better than he does, but I think your macro, your build in general, and like your decision with droning, is a little weak at times as well, as we talked about before. And I think a build order will definitely help you with that. But I'm going to ask you a question, and then I want you to tell me if anything doesn't make sense, or if you feel like there's anything that is you're just unsure of.
I'm actually learning a lot.
Okay.
Right now.
Do you feel or I'm gonna, instead of asking a question, I'm just gonna tell you. It makes more sense if I tell you. If you are not at 80 drone, like the 80 to 85 drone window that you need to be in, every time you wait to take a fight on creep and then it happens, and then you crush an army, you progress to that drone window, and ideally you want to be there faster than later. Like, you want to be there sooner than later. You want to get there as quick as you can. But every time you win a fight on creep, you always should push for that drone window. And then as soon as you actually get to that drone window, then you start prioritizing a lot of your attention on counter, take a fight on creep, counter, take a fight on creep. And every time you take a fight on creep, if you win a fight on creep, you then fully commit to his base. That should be your game plan overall. And if you play it that way, the whole thing I just said, it sounds basic, but it takes a lot of patience to play like that, because you'll have to kind of break your mindset of being like, I want to kill him, he's in the middle of the map, I want to fight him, I see him. But if you start playing that way, you will gain so much control of your games, because you will just have overwhelming armies repeatedly, because you'll see how many mistakes your opponents make if you just don't make mistakes yourself. And the big mistakes, that is, like taking a fight off creep. Like, I can't tell you how bad that fight was for you in the bottom middle of the map at the Zelnaga when you lost all your Hydras and all your Lings and all your Banes. Like, that fight fucked you over so bad. And it's still having repercussions even to this point right now in the game. because you lost control, and the reason why you have no creep on the bottom of the map is because of that. Because you lost control for so long. So just don't lose control. Have good creep, like on the top side of the map or the middle of the map, and focus on it. Like your creep could even be better there, and then you'll just have such a better time in ZvT. Because again, that was that right there. That was another fight where you had to take it off creep again, because his army was pulling you off of the creep to kill it. Your army engaged the very front line of it with creep, but imagine if your creep was all the way to like the Zanaga Tower, or even further to like all the way to the left side of the map where his top base is, and then you saw his army pushing on your creep right there, and maybe you even engaged it before it even sieged, because he's the one who's playing impatient by being like, I gotta go, I gotta go, I gotta go, and you just like run his ass over on creep again. Like your trades will be so much better. Yeah.
All of this makes super sense, but when you play the game, it's panic mode, you know?
Yeah, it's just because the reason why it's panic mode, the reason why it turns into that, is because one mistake leads to another mistake, leads to another mistake, leads to another mistake, and once you've made like 5 mistakes, your whole mindset is, I'm behind, fuck, I'm behind, fuck, I'm behind again,
Yeah.
oh my god, I can't, like, he's attacking me again, oh my god, like, it doesn't stop. You just don't make mistakes early game, and then it's going to be the complete opposite. You're going to be the one that's like, wow, I'm just like crushing this guy, and every time he tries to attack me, he just gets destroyed. Because like you just do things like, for instance, your build order is efficient, and you don't take fights off creep, and suddenly he's the one who has an inefficient build, and because his build is super inefficient as well this game, it really is. And then he also takes fights on creep, and you're just like, wow, I have so much stuff, and he just runs here and I just kill it, and now. That was really easy, and now when I have the control, I push. Not before. You, like, for instance, 2 things you did this game, the one we just talked about with the south side attack at the Zanaga, you lost control there, big mistake. Another one was when you hit the planetary, and you overcommitted there, and you lost a shitload of Hydras, and also Roaches. Overcommitted, and you lost control there. Those 2 things were like massive overcommitments by you when you shouldn't have done that. And then those combined with an inefficient build were 3 ways you fell behind this game. And then really quickly too, just a tip here. This is like a nice little thing you can do against nukes, because nukes are super annoying. I think most of your games won't get to nukes, but this is just it's an easy tip. You can a way you can fix this. Whenever you start having a Terran nuke you, always expect it to be at one of your mineral lines. So always check your mineral lines to defend it every time. And then if you see the dot, or if you hear the sound effect, because you can hear a nuke. The closer and closer a nuke gets to actually going off, the louder it literally goes like it's like an amplified effect of it starts off just like it gets louder as it goes. I feel like everyone understands that concept. It makes sense. So as you try to find it, it'll become louder and you can actually hear it. But if you see the dot, obviously that is a direct indicator. Oh, there's the dot. I'm getting nuked there. But a way you can deal with nukes, easy, other than just grabbing your drones and running in the way, put 2 spines and 1 spore at every single choke point to your base. So a great one to do it would be, like right here would be 1. Right here would be another one on the ramp. Right here would be another one in this choke point. Another one would be right here on the ramp. And then lastly, you could have it like right here at the rocks. And immediately, right then, this is where logically it makes sense. If you spined those parts of your base right there, it's minimal spine positioning. Like, for instance, you don't have to put spines at every single doorway, like this one and 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 this one. Like, you don't have to put spines at every single fucking entrance to your base, like at every single like throughout the middle and the other side of the map. You only have to put spines at one entrance to all of your entrances to your base on your side, which is like 5 locations on this map. Does that make sense so far? And then I'll explain another concept that makes it really come together.
No, that was easy.
Okay, so yeah, you just like close off every entrance to your exact side of your map on like your 4 or 5 bases that you have. Then every time you hear a nuke, you no longer have to check your bases that are covered. You only have to check the middle of the map, because if a ghost tries to walk past those 2 spines and a spore when they're in tight choke points like this, it will die. So you automatically know he doesn't have ghosts in your base anymore. Now, he could do something like send 3 ghosts at once into your base or some shit like that. And if that happens, then it happens. But just realize that most people won't do that. Most people, like, that's like very fucking high level, literally. Most Terrans that are going to be like, I'm going to nuke you, they're going to grab ghosts from their base, like in their main, and they're just going to like shift move it and be like, nuke over there, nuke over here, nuke over there. And they're just going to fucking forget about it. They're going to be like, oh, okay, well, whatever happens, happens. I don't know. I'll just do other stuff now while he's busy dealing with nukes. But if you have the spine spore coverage, you're great. Like it will crush the ghosts, because the problem with these ghosts are he cloaks them at his base and he walks across the entire map cloaked, so you don't see it on the mini map, and then he nukes you. So this spine spore coverage prevents that from happening. And somebody just asked, what if he medevac drops it? That's where creep spread comes in, and that's where overlord spread comes in. If you have enough creep and overlord spread to see a medevac literally crossing the map, you should know a medevac is crossing the map, regardless of if it's a nuke or if it's a drop of Marines or a drop of Marauders or whatever. Again, this is Diamond Plus. This is not like Silver League or something. So you should be able to have a little bit of minimap awareness at this point too. Which by the way, IFAC, I think you do. I think you don't give yourself enough vision on the minimap with your spread of your creep and overlords. But for the vision you do have, I think you're aware of it. You do react to things that I see. But it's just you don't have enough vision though, entirely.
Forces under attack.
And now you are going ultras, which I like, but yeah, at this point now you just don't have enough supply. So you're just going to get run over and die. And yeah, like this is what I'm talking about too. Like, do not build spore spine around your base. Build it at the choke points. Which again is another reason why creep start is important here. Because if you build spore spine around your base, a nuke has a longer range than static D. And his targets to nuke are not going to be your mineral line. Or sorry, they're not going to be your front choke points. They're going to be your mineral lines. So to take it one step further from what I said a second ago, where I was like, if you just cut off your bases in all these ways, and in front of your base, you're just like, I'm protected from a nuke here. I'm protected from a nuke there. Because I've put my choke points have spine spore at them. You could actually, every time you get nuked from then on, you could be like, you could look at the choke points and be like, really quickly go through the center of the map and be like, no, 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 no. And all you'd be looking for then is the red dot. Because seeing a red dot with just like 2 spores and or 2 spines and a spore would be way easier to spot than trying to spot a nuke that's in the middle of, like, it could be one of your gases, it could be on any of your drones, it could be on your the back of your hatchery. You know what I mean? Like, it's just harder to see it because there's way more shit going on in the mineral line, as opposed to 2 spines and a spore in the middle of a little tiny hallway. So, yeah, it would just be way easier to spot nukes. But again, nukes is not like the primary thing here that we need to focus on. It's just a great way to deal with nukes that makes it super easy for you. But yeah, in reality, you just don't have enough drones. Like, you don't have enough control of the game, you don't have enough drones, and you're constantly put on the back foot because of that. And it's starting to really spiral out of control right now for you from this Terran. And like, every fight you're taking is always pushing you off creep.
Because I don't have creep.
Exactly. And you don't have creep because you've lost control of the game. Because of all the things the mistakes you made earlier. That's why, if you've ever heard me say this concept, it's very true. The early game sets the pace for the late game very hard. So the weaker your early game is, the more mistakes you make in the early game, the harder your late game will feel. And if, like, for instance, this game right now for you could feel like this guy was GM. You're like, God damn, like I literally can never get like a foothold in this game. It is so hard. And it's because the early game for you was very weak and you made multiple mistakes. And your build order was like your overall opener of your build. You had 35 drones when you should have had like almost 70. That is a big fucking deal. It's a huge deal. But if you actually had a solid opener and you didn't make early mistakes that are very easy not to make because you just don't push off creep when it's not appropriate to do that, and your build is also efficient and you don't do things like build 3 spores per base and all those things we talked about. If you just have an efficient opener, suddenly instead of this guy feeling like he's GM, it feels like he's Gold League. And you're like, wow, this game feels easy as hell. Because your build is paced at a better pacing than his is. And then it's way easier to capitalize on your opponent's mistakes when that happens. Which is why players that are GM and stuff like this in StarCraft will never lose, literally, to players who are like Diamond or like Plat or whatever. Because they pace the build at a much faster pace. And then you just watch players at lower leagues make massive amounts of mistakes while you just absorb them. And then once you make 1 or 2 mistakes, that's all it takes. And you're just playing from behind for the next 20 minutes. Because you're like, I can never get a foothold anymore from this point. Because every time I try, I just get punished for it. The early game sets the pace so fucking hard for the late game in StarCraft 2. So seriously, just when it comes to a big army fight, never fight his main army unless it's on creep. Ever. Until you're like maxed out. And really focus on spreading that creep so you get more advantages. Like, you give yourself more room to work with that creep. Creep is so important in ZvT. Alright. Now, with that all being said, any final questions or thoughts about this game before I create a build for you?
No.
Okay.
I've saw my mistakes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So hop out of that replay and then right click. Just give me the party leader now in the group back in like the BattleNet menus, and I'll make a game.
Is it okay to make a 5-minute break because it's super late here
Yeah.
and it's getting difficult for me to follow along?
Yeah. No problem. Take a break, and then when you come back, we'll do this final like build order preview thing, and then we can wrap it up after that.
Yeah, that would be great. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right. Chat. Hello, guys. Thank you guys very much for the support. Nick Pondline, thank you for the bits. Joel Pool, thank you for the Prime. Fearless Pinata, thank you for the bits. People Man, thank you for the bits. Speed Ghost, thank you very much for the 6-month resub. Whoa, you could subscribe with Twitch Prime? Everyone should do that now. Yeah. Ghost Rogue, thank you very much for the 44-month resub, man.
When he comes back, ask him to say battle cruiser operational.
I'll ask him to say it at the end of the lesson again. So I'll ask him to say it in like 15 minutes or 20 minutes. I can't make him... Guys, he's not a streamer, okay? I can't be like, dance, monkey, dance, like you guys treat me. Alright, I'll ask him at the end. We're almost done. It is a 2-hour lesson. This is a bit of a longer one, but yeah. Almost done. Idio Savant, thank you very much for the Prime as well.
Vibe dancer for us.
And yeah. Thank you guys. I appreciate the support. Fearless Banana, thank you again for the bits as well, man. Much love, dude. You always throwing lots of support my way. Thank you. Yeah.
Dance Vibe monkey. Dance you melon farmer.
Melon farmer. Dude, my nose is so runny right now. My God. I'm like, I have like really bad allergies right now. Doju, thank you for the bits, man. Much love. And Ninja Dave, thank you for the 3-month resub. Thanks for all the SC2 wisdom, man. No worries. Thank you for watching. Thank you, dude. Oh. Oh, yeah. What matches did we go over? Yeah, ZvT. We talked a little bit about ZvZ and ZvT in the beginning of the game. But the lesson mostly has been focused on ZvT, for sure. Mostly the ZvT. Is creep spread not as important with Protoss? No, it's still pretty important with Protoss. It's important in PvZ and ZvT, but it's more important in Zerg versus Terran because the majority of Terran units are glass cannons. So mobility is fucking critical there. It's very, very, very important. Terran can kill an army faster than Protoss can with average just auto-attacking DPS. Now, Protoss can be very scary when they have things like Storm and stuff like that, for sure. And like Archons versus air units and other things, like AoE, essentially. Yeah, Protoss can be really scary. But the average unit, like a Marine tank army versus Ling Bane, that fight can get decided faster than like Stalkers and Immortals and Sentries can be decided with Protoss. Against like Roach Ravager or something like that. Yeah, ZvT, because a lot of times in ZvT you tend to use more melee units, like Ling Bane Ultra. It's more common. In ZvP you tend to use more, I would say, Roach heavy compositions or Spire compositions. It's a little more forgiving. If you like, you still can go Ling Bane in ZvP, but you'll have some type of heavy support like range unit. I think that basically there's more of an emphasis on range units in ZvP than there is in ZvT. There's more of an emphasis on melee units in ZvT, especially when it's bio, because you're focusing more on Ling Bane. So the mobility is fucking huge there, super big.
Thanks for everything you do for the community vibe. Much love from South Africa.
Yo, newbie! Oh my god, bro! Thank you very much for the 75. Is that for a coaching lesson, or is that just a straight up dono? Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you, man. Thank you. My God. My man. Holy. Holy. I'm actually gonna just make a game and I'll invite him to it. My man. Yeah, dude. Newbie. Dude, you're a fucking boss. You are an absolute boss.
Hey man, I'm back.
All right, welcome back, welcome back. Feeling focused? Feeling ready to go for round 2?
Yep.
Okay, let's do this.
Okay, quitting the replay.
Yep. All right, and then this one will be a... I just gotta give you a message so I can invite you to the game. All right, and then this one will be... The way this build will be designed is it's going to be a build that opens up with speedlings, and it gives you the ability to scout for if it's bio or if it's mech. And if it is bio, like this is basically the better way to say this. This build is going to be designed to deal with Hellion openers, okay? Every time. If it's not a Hellion opener, and if you realize, oh, it's 2-1-1, which is not going to be common at all this meta. It could happen, but it's not going to be common. If it is 2-1-1, the only difference I would recommend you to do is when I build the Roach Warren, just skip it and go Baneling Nest. That's the only difference.
Okay.
And then if it...
Just,
or go ahead. What
just to skip the Roach Warren. Okay.
Yeah, if it's 2-1-1, if it's bio, if you know it's bio. But if it's a Hellion opener, what's going to happen then is I will play as if it were to become bio eventually, like what you just played against in that replay. You will still make a Bane Nest, but it will happen later because you'll open Roaches. Because you're going to be opening up against Hellions. Does that make sense?
Yep. Okay.
All right, let's fucking do it. Ugh. I'm sorry. When you watch this VOD, you're probably going to be like, God damn, ViBE keeps rubbing his nose with tissues. My bad, dude. My nose is like so runny right now. I have like really bad allergies today. All right. Whoops. Okay. So creep team replacement is going to be huge. Definitely watch my creep team replacements. That's
okay.
Probably the biggest, like Queen and creep team replacement is the biggest thing I want you to really improve on.
One question though.
Yeah.
Where should I scout for proxies?
Second Overlord, do what I'm doing with it. Leave it in front of your natural.
Okay.
And then once your natural's almost done, then send it out. Don't actually scout around your side of the map for proxies. Because
Okay.
the reason why is everyone is going to build a bunker in front of your base that's going to proxy you. And you're going to see the bunker start before your pool is done. So you're going to still be able to make lings and queens and a spine or whatever like right away as a response to it. But if you spend all this time trying to find a proxy and it doesn't happen very often, you're just going to waste a lot of your time, and you're going to probably fuck your build up more often than not, I would say. Like it's still doable by responding to it by doing what I'm doing right now. And if it was a proxy, what you would do is your overlord would go to the cliff where it is right now, like to the left a little bit, and then it wouldn't die to marines, and it could still see marines coming, but then you would just make lings and queens, and you'd be fine. Because you should be. Go ahead.
You delayed the gas a little bit.
I did. I was talking. That's why I didn't mean to do it. It's it should be. Yeah. Just know that it should be on time.
Okay.
But
it's still hatch gas pool.
you can go hatch gas pool. Hatch gas pool or hatch pool gas against Terran. Either one is fine, honestly.
Okay.
It's like
okay.
17, 18, 17. Either way. The
So no, it's not 16 hatch.
No, 16 hatches against Protoss and Zerg. You can even go 16 hatch against Terran if you really want to. It's not like going to be like, holy fuck, this is massively game changing here. Those are very minor details. But you could still go 16, like 16, 18, 72 if you want to. If you want to make it universal for every matchup, you could do that too.
Okay.
Alright, so your lings really don't need to go attack either. Yeah. I mean, it's an AI, so it's fucking weird. Most people would open with a Reaper, right? And you would have scouted like, oh, he went for a barracks or factory, whatever, CC, etc., etc., etc.
Queen birth successful.
Alright, so we are still getting ready to inject our third. We're making queens. Again, we're going to go up to about 7. We're making overlords already kind of like go around. We're putting them in front of our base at first, like on the ramps that we were talking about. So this should be your first go-to thing to do with your overlord placement. You'll see it in a second as it develops. We're going to make some lings to be safe. And now that we're fully saturated on 2 bases, we're going to make a roach warren. Wait, I made the computer Zerg, what the fuck? Oh, whatever. And then now, if you saw, like at this point, you'd want to be like, all right, we got to get into his main, we got to scout what's going on. It's around like the 4-minute mark we were talking about. If you saw what looked like something was going to pressure you, you could make more roaches. You could make like up to 10 or something. But just for the sake of making your life easy and simple, and we don't have to make it too technical. We could just say as soon as your roach warren's done, just make like 10 roaches, and then ideally you would get like if this was Terran, you'd get a read like, okay, is it bio or is it mech, that kind of a thing, and you could go into more roaches there, or you can go into Lingbane. If you already got to see what it was. If you didn't see what it was yet, which is going to also happen sometimes, we'll do another scout around 6 minutes. But like, look at my economy right now. It's 5 minutes and 20 seconds. I already have roaches. I already have lings. I already have queens. I have the 7 queens that we're looking for here, because my 7th one is almost done right now. And I already have the other ones already out. And our drone count at 5:38 is 64. At 7 minutes last game, your drone count was 35.
Yeah, a huge difference.
Yeah, so it's a big deal on how much economy you're going to have. And then you could even start like another base right now. This is when you'd be like, okay, now we can get like a macro hatch just to make sure I can utilize it. And the layer's almost done. So, because we made the roaches first, so the layer is super delayed now. Because we want to be extra safe against like Hellion BC or whatever. But like right now would be, like since you're good economy, you'd be like, okay, now we can go like Evo, Bane. And let's just say again, it was Bio. We could start going back into Ling Bane. And then if you see with your scout that is an overseer, which we're making right now, if you were to see a third command center with the army you currently have, you could easily make a saturated fourth and then go into army. If you, however, did not see a third base at all and it was a 2-base Terran, I would recommend just keeping army producing going non-stop until you kill his push, and then you can saturate your next base. Does that concept make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. But the whole time we're just spreading creep, spreading creep, spreading creep. And you're just literally trying to fill in gaps of creep all over and over and over. And now, let's just say, okay, we either defended a push just now or we saw a third base from Terran. We could be like, alright, let's go ahead and saturate another base. We could even get our infestation pit going for to get ready to go to Hive. And we could take one of our queens off and become an injector. So now we only have 3 creep Zerg queens instead of 4. And we have 4 injectors now instead of 3. And my drone count now is around 85. And we're just going into straight up unit production, going crazy here. Again, we're going to make roaches up to about... or sorry, not roaches. Hydras up to about like 20 of them. And then we'll stop. Okay, we just made like 12. So we're going to make like another 8 or so and we'll be good. Doesn't have to be perfect either. It could be like anything around like 17, 18, 19, 20. Anything around there is great. Just don't make like 40 fucking Hydras. Okay, so I just made another 8. So we should have roughly about 20 Hydras as soon as they're all done. And then we're making Lings. And now we can also, you know, be making Banes and shit too. It's fine. Obviously, make Banes, like have some Banes in your army, like usually, always, and just you can always make more if you see a timing coming at you. But again, the big deal here is you should feel, if you can economy like this, you should feel no pressure to feel like I have to attack or I'm behind. I have to attack or I'm behind. Because if you would have just macroed last game, you would have been crushing that Terran because his build was also super inefficient. And at this point now, we are going to max. If our Overlord didn't just die. And then you just keep your build going with, like, you know, upgrades, melee, carapace, level 2. Get your Hive going. Or your Hive's about done, so you'll utilize that in a second. You can start, like, an Ultra Den. You can start Adrenal Glands. All your upgrades. Get all this shit just, like, as soon as you can. Just maximize it. And then now, at this point, when you max out, if you feel very confident, you could take a fight straight up. Or if you wanted to do things that made your opponent feel pressured, you could literally just like grab a chunk of Lings and like we were talking about before and just start doing these things where you literally shove the creep repeatedly to your opponent's base. You just keep shoving the creep. You focus on the creep spread and you counter repeatedly. These are, if your counter just dies, it's not like, well, I just lost the game because I just threw a counter attack away. You could easily replace this. And if you see your opponent move out like his whole army to go defend his main base or something like that, suddenly you get like a free snipe on the third base. And then you back off. You just fuck his economy up and then you back off. And then while you back off, you spread creep again. You literally just spread creep again and again and again and again. And then all it does if you do this is it increases the odds that when he does eventually push, you will be fighting on creep. And then, you know, that's like, well, okay, I just lost some Ling Bane or whatever. Send another wave of Ling Bane. Let's do it again. Send another wave. And you're also, at the same time, you could be increasing your tech, your comp of your army. And you're also, your upgrades are getting closer and closer to finishing. So you're like, all right, let's go hit his other base. Let's go over here and hit another base. Whatever. You know, let's say you do some damage here. You kill some more stuff. And then, you know, things die, etc., etc. I'm going to kill some of my own army just to pretend as if I lost more shit here. And now you're like, you know what? Let's make a bunch of ultras now, because I can. And now suddenly your composition with better creep spread turns from just Ling main Hydra into now you have a good bank with good creep spread, and now you have ultra Ling main and Hydra. And you just have all these advantages where your opponent's the one that feels stuffed in the corner, and now you have like 3-3 started. You could take another base to like send your drones to that are oversaturated, that are mining out, and take another hatchery entirely. And if you're like, well, my opponent's being contained while I'm just constantly throwing little bits of Ling main at him, like that is what your game winning condition is, because you're just starving him out. It doesn't have to be as straightforward as like I have to kill his army every time he moves out. Just starve his ass out. You know what I mean? You can play the game a lot more methodically than just being hyper aggressive and always attacking into his base every second you can. Because the creep game is, if you spread your creep like this right now, what I'm doing, you're gonna have so much fucking control of the game, over and over and over and over and over. So I would say definitely just work on your creep game, and if you can start being able to do creep like this, you're just gonna be like, wow, ZvT is way easier. All right, so anything about what we just did? Questions at all?
No, it's just that during the game, the Terran will try to clear the creep, and he will harass here and there, and I'm going to make a lot of mistakes.
I understand, but
yeah,
just know that just know this, okay? For real. 6 minutes. If you can hit fully saturated 3 bases at 6 minutes, you are playing at a pace that is going to shit on diamond players. I'm not even kidding. Like, it's going to crush them. So what's going to happen is you're going to play games that are going to be like, he's attacking me, but instead of it feeling like it's really hard to defend it, if you can just spend your money, if you can hit that economy like that, and then you can also spend your money because you inject properly and things like this, like the whole third basing we're talking about, like things like that, they're all huge, man. They're so fucking huge. They're massive. You're going to feel like the game is so much easier because you just have so much more stuff than you otherwise would have before with your old playstyles. Like literally the game that I just played just now, that I just showed you. I know obviously I wasn't getting attacked by the Terran, but even if I was, okay, it wasn't like I just made nothing but drones until 6 minutes. I made safety lings and I made safety roaches. I made like 20 lings or 16 lings and 10 roaches. So the build, like, and I also made 7 queens. So the build has defensive measures that you'll have. You just have to not focus on your opponent and focus on yourself. The only time you should ever focus on your opponent is when you're doing the scout, like the initial scout, the 4-minute scout, and then the last overseer scout at around 6 minutes, and that's it. Because you're just trying to get like a decent read. Otherwise, do not feel pressured to attack him at all. Just be like, oh, defend, and suddenly I have so much of everything. All right. Anyways, I do really think that'll help you out a lot, man.
Yeah.
And I think the final thing to wrap it up, the way to give yourself a good omen, give yourself good just good chances for it all to go the way you want it to, is if you just say battlecruiser operational one final time.
Good. Battlecruiser operational.
Yeah, perfect. It's perfect, man. All right, dude. Well,
of course, for your reference, always.
All right. Well, I wish you the best of luck, man.
Thanks, man. See you next month.
Yeah, I'll see you, and get some sleep. I know it's super late for you.
Yeah.
All right. Take it easy, dude.
Bye.
All right, guys. That has been a coaching lesson with IFAC. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys enjoyed it, I have many more like this. Go check out the YouTube channel. I have Bronze GM, more coaching lessons, and also replay analysis, all these videos. So check them out. Thank you for watching. See you guys in the next one. Until then, good luck and peace out.